Hey, Rachel.
Hey, Brian.
So how was your week?
It was terrible. I mean, not personally, but just this week in the world, in the news was horrific,
Yeah, I
wasn't
hadn't.
it?
I hadn't been watching a lot. I've been busy at work or something. But last night I had a little downtime. I turned on the news, figure it would, catch me up, and it wouldn't be too bad. But
Just
it
like
was
watched it through your
awful.
fingers. Yeah.
It was awful. I just had to turn it off after 20 minutes. It was awful.
Yeah. Well, luckily, we're entering into a long weekend where we could celebrate our nation's most unambiguously joyful holiday,
You mean like the
Thanksgiving.
kickoff of the genocide and the
Yes.
first of several genocides in our
Well,
nation's history?
yeah. Well, we're having, my family is doing a Friendsgiving this year, and we're doing a indigenous themed Thanksgiving,
Oh,
the
that's
wokest.
nice.
Yeah, yeah, I'm excited
Okay.
about it.
Yeah.
No turkey, no turkey for us.
Oh, is the turkey the signifier of the
No,
terribleness?
no, no, it's just not delicious. We want more deliciousness. We're
Yeah,
doing
so
a duck.
let's have a duck and a brisket and all the good things, and
Yes,
let's go into some terrible things. This is Nope.
the podcast where we shut it down.
We're just a couple of New York Jews talking about the news, beating back the blues. We made a podcast and here's why. Had to laugh so we don't cry. Come and join us for the ride. Welcome to Know.
Okay, Rachel. Well, do you know what number episode this is?
It's episode 180, and I
People-
cannot even believe it.
No, when
I
people
can't.
ask me, like, oh, I've long, most people who do a podcast, they do it for like a few months and then it tapers off when they don't like the numbers. But our numbers just keep going up, and we kept going on
Can't
and on
stop,
and on.
won't stop.
No,
Like,
and it's 180, and I don't know why that's a significant number. I mean, it's like 2 times 90 or 3 times 60, I guess.
10
But
times. Well, it's high, the Jewish
oh
number for
yeah,
life,
all right,
times 10. So
yeah.
it's a very meaningful number. 180 degrees, halfway around, the
Right.
circle, the circle of life.
I hope I'm 51. I'll be 51 next week. This probably is halfway around the circle of life for me.
Yeah.
You maybe
So
have a little more to go. So anyway, and we're releasing this today early because we've gotten feedback in the recent years that people enjoy doing this while they're driving to wherever they're going on Thanksgiving. It's a nice way to sort of have some catharsis, some topics to talk about with their family. I was going to say some
or some topics
non-controversial.
to avoid.
I was going to say some non-controversial topics, but maybe the opposite. But
Yeah.
anyway, we accept this as our gift to you, as our Thanksgiving gift to you. Rachel, anything interesting happened to you this week?
Not really. I mean, as I was talking before about watching the news, I just feel like anyone who's living in the reality-based community, I was extremely horrified by the acquittal of Kyle Rittenhouse this week. But what really added insult to injury, and just like rubbed salt in the wounds, was the reaction of certain otherwise rational people who expressed hope that this 17-year-old terrorist monster would somehow learn from his experience. Like Chris Hayes, who I normally like, the guy
Yeah.
from MSNBC, he tweeted, honestly hoping this kid takes the opportunity to turn his life around. And I mean, it's nice to hope, but I just kept seeing
No,
sentiments
he
like
should
this.
not be the object of our hope. We have bigger things to hope about than the future
yeah,
of Kyle
let's be
Rittenhouse.
realistic. Let's be realistic here. This person is a white supremacist monster terrorist who crossed state lines with an illegal weapon, murdered 2 people, injured a third, and was just given a free pass by our corrupt racist justice system. And far more likely than learning from the experience and turning his life around, he's going to be emboldened to kill other people with impunity, right? I mean, this is the likely outcome, no matter what Chris Hayes or anybody else hopes. And so it's like saying, I hope Elizabeth Holmes turns her life around and starts a blood
great
testing
company.
company.
Starts a different blood testing company that
With
this
functional
time.
technology. It's just like hope is not the answer, people. The cavalry is not coming. We are the ones we've been waiting for. Not hope, nope, right?
Right, sure. That we're not even up to the nopes yet. But on a similar note, I finally saw Dune.
Oh my God, dude, I'm so jealous. I've tried so many times to
No,
watch
don't
it.
be
I fall
jealous.
asleep
Don't
every-
be jealous. Okay, so here's my review. Here's my review of Dune. So it finally, if you listen to the past few episodes, you know that there was an aborted attempt last week where I waited for an hour and it didn't start due to daylight saving time, allegedly.
And you got free tickets.
And I got
and
free
then
tickets
more free tickets.
for the right. So we have many free tickets to movies that I don't want to see. However, I did see Dune this week with Doug, and it was 4.5. On the upside, it was 4.5 hours of watching Timothée Chalamet's.
That's how long it is.
No, it's 2.5 hours, but it felt like 4.5. People are like, oh, it flies by. I'm like, no, it did not. It did not fly by. I'll have no problem watching Netflix show binging 3 episodes of The Circle or Squid Game for 3 hours, but give me 2.5 hours of Dune. I was like, I was looking at my watch.
Well, because it's all one giant thing. Between Squid Game episodes, you can just like get up, stretch, have a drink, like relax a little.
Yeah, you don't want to miss a second of this convoluted plot because like you'll be gone forever. Anyway, the only good side about it is that I got to stare at Timothée, who's in every single scene for 2.5 hours.
Very
and
handsome
his
young man.
Bird-like frame and his sulky demeanor. It was very, very. It spoke volumes. I don't know what it spoke volumes about.
It spoke to you.
But it was so confusing that Doug, who I think he read the books, he definitely saw the previous movie. We went to lunch afterwards. We saw a matinee. And then we spent another 2.5 hours trying to figure out what the fuck happened in that movie. And I got the big picture. I got Sand Planet Spice. They're trying to get it, take it back from the other empire. And I was lost. And it's maybe just not for me. And yet, somehow, I'm going to go watch the second half of the Dune Chronicles whenever it comes out.
But is it on HBO anymore? Because Josh was really gonna kill me the other night because we've tried to watch it so many times, and like it said 24 hours left to watch it on HBO Max, and we weren't sure. Like, is it really ending? And
I don't know. I only watched Succession and Curb. I mean, that's all I.
And
watched.
I was like, should we watch the beginning of Dune again? He was like, again, you're totally gonna fall asleep.
The other problem is the reason I want to watch it again. The only reason I would watch this movie again is that so I could watch it with subtitles, because half the time they're whispering and there's a great score by Hans Zimmer, but like you can't hear what they're saying.
I know.
And there's
I
all
found
these
it very
obscure
hard to
words,
understand.
like it's like names of things in space that you're supposed to know and you don't know them. It was not for me. It was not for me. I recognize the artistic merit. I recognize Timothée Chalamet. And that's about it for me. I'm done.
Do you remember what the planet is called again? What is it called?
There's the Atreides, the House of Atreides.
Yeah.
And I don't remember anything.
Okay.
The Hakkanians, our listeners are not interested in this. Like,
okay.
Either they've seen Dune and they know it, or they haven't and they don't care. Let's move on to the nopes. Oh, I have the first nope this week. Usually you do the political items and I do the silly items afterwards, but somehow I managed to take on the political items, which we've been calling the dry heaves. But as I dug deep into this and doing the research for this, I realized I think we may be past the dry heaves, not in a good way. I think there may be actual voluminous vomit coming up again. Like
Great.
Like I think there's sputum, like there's real substance coming out.
Here.
Yes, yeah. Right. So make for the toilet. I'm about to tell you some things that are not going to make you happy. So this I wasn't planning on talking about, but it just jumped out at me from the news in the last 24 hours. Do you know about this John F. Kennedy Jr. thing with QAnon? Have you heard about this?
I heard that they think he's going to be on the ticket with Trump in 2024.
That's not quite it. That's not quite it. So the QAnons have been gathering in Dallas at Dealey Plaza, where John.
Well, they
F. Kennedy,
think he's alive, right?
No.
I'm sorry.
Don't.
I'm jumping in. I'm just.
You can't contain yourself.
The ceiling cannot hold me.
Okay, so they've been gathering in Dealey Plaza for weeks. They've been camping out, like they're like looking for tickets to a hot show. And why have they been camping out? Because they believe that John F. Kennedy Jr., not John F. Kennedy the president, will return as their savior on the anniversary of JFK's assassination, and he will usher in the new Trump presidency. Okay. And they actually think that JFK Jr. might be Q himself.
Oh, okay.
I hadn't heard that angle before. And then they're attaching this savior narrative, not just to JFK Jr., but to also Princess Di, Michael Jackson, and Robin Williams. So if any or all of those return to life at the site of the JFK assassination, we will know.
We will know that Donald Trump is president
Donald
again.
Trump will be president. That'll be the savior. Like, this is like the cult of like the golden calf. Like, I don't know.
It doesn't make any sense.
Well,
None
of course
of these
it doesn't
narratives
make any sense.
But like, there's usually like a kernel of truth or something that like I could understand the like international cabal of like child traffickers, because that actually does exist.
Right. They misattributed it, but
they're not all,
there is
not
child
led by
trafficking,
Hillary
right?
Clinton, but
right.
but it is that it
but
does
she is
exist.
a human who is alive, and sex trafficking is a thing that exists. So it's a misconstrued connection between those two. But they're with this savior thing, they're defying the laws of physics here.
Of physics and
biology,
it's biology,
history, everything. There's no evidence that this will happen. There's evidence-free beliefs. And
every time it doesn't happen, they just keep like changing the goalposts.
Yeah,
saying,
it's like the Mayan apocalypse of 2012, or the Mercury in retrograde, or whatever that shit is, right?
Exactly.
And then just when you think that the QAnon thing is receding under the weight of its own irrationality, I saw this little tally. There are 45 QAnon candidates running for Congress this year. 8 people running for governor, and countless numbers of people running for state legislatures. And some of them are going to get in. Some of them will
they already are in. Marjorie Taylor Greene is in.
But their ranks are swelling. Like, they're going to have a caucus.
No, this is the Republican Party now. This is who it is.
Say all you want about the squad. We may differ. I'm not a fan, but like, the squad is much better than this nonsense. Like, this.
Oh my God, it's not. This is the thing. Like, in both sides journalism, they would like pit those two things against each other. Like, on one side there's the squad, on the other side there's QAnon. It's like
that is a false equivalency. Right. As much as I dislike Ilhan Omar, she is not Marjorie Taylor Greene. Like,
she's like a brilliant person. Yeah. Okay. So
anyway. Let's move on. I want to talk about a more mainstream political fight. So there's this whole thing about the fact that Trump is endorsing candidates, in all kinds of random things, whoever catches his attention.
Or whoever pisses him off, he's just going to run in and endorse a primary
That's right.
challenger.
And there was the Republican Governors Convention this week, and they're all
in Arizona, right?
Yeah, they're all shitting because like their whole thing, they're like establishmentarians. Like, they want to endorse. They've made it clear they're going to endorse sitting Republican governors and
incumbents.
Of
course, that's what they.
That's right. So and they're also allegedly loyal to Trump. But then there's going to be these cases where he's going to endorse their primary challengers, and they're going to be betwixt and between.
It's good for Democrats. I mean, I hate to say it, but like,
don't hate to say it. I love to say it. It's wonderful for Democrats. So let's go to one of the more mainstream races here to see like how this might be playing out. So let's go to Pennsylvania, where there's going to be an open Senate seat that the Democrats actually have a chance of a pickup, which might actually be our salvation in a 50-50 Senate, where God knows what's actually going to happen. So we've got this guy, Sean Parnell, who has been the front runner forever. He was endorsed by Trump. And then over the last few weeks, months, whatever, there have been credible allegations that he is a wife and child abuser. Right. So his wife accused him of choking her, throwing chairs at her, pinning her down, calling her a whore and a piece of shit. And she had to bite him to stop him from strangling her.
These things are all prerequisites to get a Trump endorsement.
Right. They're vetted. They have to fill out a questionnaire, which please check all that apply.
Only the best people.
Choking, throwing, pinning. He also hit his kids and slammed a closet door in their face. And then finally this week, a judge, he lost custody of his kids, and he decided that was the final straw.
So he dropped out.
He suspended. Well, they never drop out. He suspended his campaign, whatever that means. That means he doesn't like give up his war chest, or he gets to donate it to someone else or something. So apparently what happened is that Trump, once these allegations came out, he was obsessing over it, as Trump does about these things. And of course, because he had endorsed this guy, and he can't accept responsibility for anything. So who did he blame? He blamed Don Jr., who's
really?
a friend of Sean
this.
Parnell's.
Oh.
I'm hot breaking news here.
Okay.
That I stole
Don
from
Jr. So
that I stole
how,
from Politico.
how was Don Jr. involved?
Don was a friend of Sean Parnell and pressed for the endorsement, and then when it all backfired, of course, Donald Trump can't take responsibility for anything, so he blamed his own son and threw him under the bus.
Okay.
So what then is the fate of the Pennsylvania Senate race? Well, number two, the savior that they were waiting for is this guy David McCormick, who is the head of Bridgewater Associates, a hedge fund, which is like psycho in its own way. And so he was going to be the savior. And then there was a news report that he closed a U.S. factory because, of course, all the Republicans have to be like nationalistic, like don't send any jobs abroad. He closed a U.S. factory that had 500 employees. He promptly flew to India and opened up an identical headquarters there. So suddenly he's out of the running. So what's their plan C? Their plan C,
I don't even.
you know. We tease this. Their plan C, who could possibly be a great senator for Pennsylvania, the great state of Pennsylvania, is Dr. Oz.
Oh, no. He's going to run on the Republican ticket?
Yes.
Oh.
Who is like the number one, like quackery.
Ponzi schemer, multi-level
schemer.
marketing. Yeah, he's the worst.
He's the worst.
Snake oil salesman from hell.
I love all these synonyms for what Dr. Oz is. Let's keep going. He's the worst.
He's a huckster.
He's a huckster and a yuckster and
a charlatan.
I would say shyster, but we're two Jews here, so we can't say that. But he's that too. So anyway, so that's what's going to happen in the Pennsylvania race. I predict that Dr. Oz will be the standard bearer for the GOP. Let's move down to Texas now. So Beto O'Rourke is taking another stab at office. He's going to run against Governor Greg Abbott, who's like the Antichrist there, and has single-handedly responded for so many deaths, tragically, in the COVID crisis.
And deaths to come this winter. Which
happening in progress right now. And who is going to save Texas? None other than Matthew McConaughey, the Oscar-winning actor.
Oh, God.
And
give someone an Oscar and they think that they can. It's like giving someone $1 billion. They think they're an architect. Give someone an Oscar. They think they can be
they're
governor.
an astronaut. They think they're an astronaut. So believe it or not, he's leading in the polls. He is leading. We don't know if he's going to run in the Democratic or Republican ticket or as an independent. He's beating Abbott in the polls by 43 to 35. He's beating Beto in the polls even more by 49 to 27%.
He's very attractive.
He's an attractive human being, but he's also a weirdo. So
yes, wasn't he like naked playing the bongos? Like
he's a naked bongo player, which by itself should be a disqualification for public office.
I think that's great. I think for me that's a qualification. That's on the pro side.
I won't say there's no record that he's actually an anti-vaxxer, but he gave this weird interview with Aaron Ross Sorkin, I think, when he was asked about
Andrew Ross Sorkin.
Yeah.
Aaron Ross.
Aaron
yeah,
Ross
you said
Sorkin.
Aaron.
Yeah.
Andrew.
Oh, sorry. So correct me. It's a podcast. I said the wrong guy. So he was asked about like vaccine mandates, and he was against vaccine mandates for kids. And then he backpedaled and he said that over 12 is fine, but he's against 5 to 11. And he's not so to which I say he's not a scientist. How is he to make that
He's doing his own
distinction?
research.
He's our world's finest immunologist and epidemiologist. And then there's this weird thing that surfaced from the summer where he was at a football. He was like leading the entertainment at a football game. And he made this rant where he's like, let's remember that we're babies as a country. We're basically going through puberty as a country. Like the fact that we're like
I don't like that
country.
metaphor.
No, like we're a country of puberty.
No,
just no.
No,
okay,
that's
but
not
these
okay.
all sound like gems compared to the next person I'm about to tell you about. I know I've gone on too long, but this is worth it. Her name is, have you heard the name Christina Caramo?
No.
Okay. She's a podcaster. She is a occasional Fox News contributor. She is running for Michigan Secretary of State, which is an important role, even though it doesn't sound so, because it runs the
well,
election.
because it's a swing state and they want
She runs the elections, right? So she has been endorsed by Trump. She's in the fundraising lead. She looks likely to be able to win the nomination, and she is certifiably fucking crazy. So she is a part-time, here's her job. She's a part-time adjunct professor at Wayne County Community College. She has a master's degree in something called Christian apologetics.
What?
Christian apologetics, but the degree is from the very prestigious Biola University.
Is that like Loyola's cousin?
It's like Loyola's biology cousin. But they only have degrees in Christian apologetics. But she won raves reviews there in her academic career. They had a professor who said she was a joy to have in class, which is like an anodyne thing that you say on a college recommendation when you don't have anything else to say.
You say that that's what teachers say about kindergartners. They're joy to have in
class, right? Satisfactory potty skills. Joy to have in class. She's great. She has great potty skills. And she just spoke at a QAnon conference, which was called in Las Vegas, called Forgotten Country Patriot Double Down. And it was organized by John Sabal, who's also known as QAnon John, who advocates for a military mutiny. And when asked about why she spoke at that conference, she claimed that she didn't know what it was. She didn't know what a QAnon conference, that it was a QAnon conference. But here's some of her statements, both from that conference and from prior. She says that Democrats have been taken over by a satanic agenda. She said our schools have turned into government indoctrination camps, and you're forced to have your child exposed to types of unbridled wickedness. I love wickedness.
But isn't that like what school is? Like school is supposed
a government indoctrination camp of wickedness. She says, there's no such thing as a person with two mommies and two daddies. That's just factually incorrect. No, it's the parent and their homosexual lover. Evolution is one of the biggest frauds that have ever been perpetrated on us. And when we normalize people...
Evolution?
Yes, evolution. I thought that was settled science.
Okay. Keep going.
And when we normalize people fornicating and we normalize people living together with their boyfriends and girlfriends and all that stuff, we open a door for us to get to the point where we have people who want to normalize pedophilia.
Okay, so this is basically what the Christian apologetics degree is in.
Well, I don't know what I mean.
I don't know.
You just parse that. Like, are they apologists for Christianity? I think they're. I did look it up. They're specialists in rebutting people who are against Christianity. So she's obviously using her rhetorical skills, but she's not winning any converts with that kind of statement.
No,
she's preaching to the choir, which is the antithesis of Christian apologetics, which means
and she's going to be the Secretary of State of Michigan. This is going to be terrible.
And worst of all, she was not a joy to have in class. She's not a joy to have in our class.
She's not a joy to have in class or government or on the street. She's terrible.
No. Anyway, that whole long thing, nope to all of it. Nope to all those insaniacs. I'm glad it was a little grab bag. We need to, a
grab bag of insaniacs. We have to keep our eyes open because this is happening.
It's a disaster. It's a slow motion disaster. And don't pretend you didn't know because it's happening here. And if you listen to this podcast, you knew it before everyone else knew it.
If you don't know, now you know.
Okay, Rachel, let's go to yours.
So, okay. And so we are in the midst of a climate crisis, as we've talked about a lot. And this week, there was a new scientific study that came out seeking to answer the question, why some men choose not to recycle.
Oh, I didn't know men were choosing. I didn't know men were choosing not to recycle. I didn't know that was a gender behavior. Okay. Keep going.
Exactly, right? So the answer as to why they are not recycling is that they are worried that people will think that they are gay.
Oh,
and
is that a gay activity?
I mean, there's so many questions. The first of which is, why do people think that wanting to save the earth has any correlation at all to sexuality? That's the first question. Is it because we call the earth Mother Earth and then it's like,
I didn't even think of that. I don't know. Like
maybe.
I mean, giving a shit about anything. Maybe it's a bro thing to not give a shit. Like, I don't know.
I don't know. And also, like, why, if it is a thing that is feminine, why would you think that someone would be gay because of it? And why is it so bad to be perceived as gay? I think I know the answer to that question, which is does not make it any less depressing.
Heteronormativity,
to think about in
right,
this
through the
day and
ages.
age.
Yes.
Yeah. So the methodology of the study, which was led by psychologists at Penn State, is also very confusing, but I'm going to try to explain it. Okay. So scientists looked into whether engaging in pro-environment activities like recycling was seen as feminine or masculine. And they found that it was perceived as feminine. Certain things were perceived as feminine, like buying a reusable mug or turning off the air conditioning in the
Turning
summer.
off the air conditioning.
But like caulking your windows was seen as a masculine activity.
Because that's like handiwork. That's like a
Handiwork.
man's work.
Right. So nothing's more manly than caulking your windows.
What about
That's-
showers? I feel like showers are more feminine.
You think baths are more masculine?
Caulking the shower.
Caulking the
bath.
shower.
Right. Because it implies
Like it depends what you're caulking.
Soaking in a bath with candles and scented, whatever. Like that's a very feminine thing. So maybe caulking the bathtub in which you do those things is feminine. I don't know.
Like, so maybe like if you're like a really masculine guy and you want to take a bath with candles, you're like,
Oh, that's
first
the
I'll
gayest.
caulk.
That's the gayest thing on earth.
First I'll caulk and then I'll bathe.
Caulk.
So okay. So anyway, there were these studies involved 960 participants. The researchers looked at the perception of men and women engaging in feminine and masculine deemed behaviors, like shopping with a reusable bag was seen as a feminine behavior, and as I said, caulking windows is a masculine behavior. And during the first two studies, participants, they read a fictional summary of what a person did that day, which included pro-environmental behaviors, and then they rated on a 10-point scale whether the person had masculine or feminine energy and guessed their sexual orientation. So the results suggested that when people did activities that conformed to their gender and the environment, they were seen as heterosexual, and then when they did those behaviors that did not conform to their gender, which is all very confusing. All the people were rated as more feminine than masculine, regardless of the different behaviors, because we're talking about environmentalism, and that in itself was more feminine. So then in the third study, this is the real one.
There's a whole suite of studies here.
So the researchers looked at whether people avoided others in the room depending on their environmental behavior preferences. This is
That's
like a very strange...
that's like the second derivative of like your actual beliefs and behaviors. That's
like, does that ever happen? Does someone avoid someone because they caulked their windows? Because it's like a woman who caulked their windows or a man who used a reusable bag.
I hear he's a caulker. Well, what should he caulk? The windows or the bath? Well,
I hear he left the air conditioning on. Ooh, can I get his number? So I don't know. I don't know about this study.
I saw something. I was like a BuzzFeed list of like things that straight men are scared of because it makes them seem gay. And one of them, so they said it's okay for men to go to a bar together because obviously that's what men do. But if men go to dinner together and sit at a table and eat food, that's gay. So
well, especially if they sit side by side.
Oh no, that's gay no matter what.
That's
that I endorse. You might as well be like grabbing each
that's
other.
That's a gay wedding, right?
That's called the dais at a gay wedding. That doesn't happen. I mean, I don't think anyone should do that unless you're like in Italy. That's the only place that's acceptable. Everywhere else, Like I go to some nice restaurants and they ask us, Doug and me, like, and I never thought that it was a gay thing. Do you want to sit across from each other or side by side? I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? What am I? Have some monster? Like some Italian monster? No, I want to sit
No,
across.
side by side.
What am I supposed
No.
to do? Like turn around to talk to him? Like, no, that's
Look,
disgusting.
no.
That's disgusting.
It's an abomination is what
yes,
that is.
yeah, against nature. Yes. So yes, going to a bar with your buddies is okay. Going and having dinner with those same people. I wonder how much like food you're allowed to order. Like if you go to a bar and you order like nachos and wings, I'm guessing that's straight. But if you sit at a table and order like, a proper meal,
An
that's
entree, then that's gay.
Right. So entree is the gay threshold, I think.
Right. But doesn't it also depend like which entree and like where it's being ordered? Like at a sports bar.
Yeah, or
Arguably.
a steakhouse. You
Steakhouse.
can have your steaks, right? But if you go
But,
to a French
like
bistro and someone has a frisee salad, and then someone else
And
has
duck confit.
a duck confit, that's the gayest thing on earth, right? Like just call up the grinder; they're ready to go. So, okay, nope to this research,
nope to
this
this
pseudoscientific research. I don't know whether the
No.
worst is the research or the people who are the
or the
subjects of research.
conclusions. I don't know. It's like we can't decouple.
They're one and the same. Okay, nope. So let's get to the ups. These are the little rays of light, the little beacons. I hope they got us through the week. Rachel, I would be honored if you would start.
Yeah, sure. My yup this week goes to season 11 of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh,
currently
too
on
easy.
HBO Max.
Too
I know it's
easy.
so easy, but like honestly, this week was so hard and it did make me laugh so hard. I was like snorting. Like that is like when you know.
How do you
it is-
get to season 11 of anything and it's as good, if not better, than ever? Like it's been on like last season and this season. Last season was Mocha Joe's and Latte Larry's, right?
Right, the Spite Store and
The Spice
and
Stores.
Yeah, and now it's just like there's a lot of drama with lying about animals.
Angel Muffin.
Angel Muffin.
Susie is at the top of her game.
Oh my God, yes. Top of her game when she's like, we don't know a fucking cow. Like
Larry.
Larry, we don't know a fucking we don't know a farm. We don't know a cow.
Like we live in LA. We're Jews in LA. Okay, that's I so fully endorse that yup.
Larry plus pandemic is just gold.
Perfect.
Right?
It's perfect.
Yeah,
Comedy gold, Larry.
Yeah.
Comedy gold. So mine is a little less uproariously funny, but I was lucky enough to go to the finale of the New York City Documentary Film Festival, which is the largest in the country. And I saw a documentary film by Nat Geo called The First Wave. That's in theaters briefly, and it's going to be on Hulu December 5th. And it's about the first wave, March, April, May of 2020 at one of the hardest hit hospitals in the country, which was in Queens, LIJ, which is the hospital where I was born. And,
oh yeah, me too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. I wonder if I knew you then. A few years apart. A few years apart. But it was incredible. They followed the doctors and the first responders and the patients, some of whom died, some of whom lived. I was worried. I didn't want to even see it because I was worried it would be so depressing. But in fact, of course, in the hands of capable documentary filmmakers, it was both depressing
They
and
find the
uplifting.
life in it. Yeah,
Of
they
course.
find the character. Yeah.
And then there was a discussion with the director and some of the people afterwards. And the main doctor was there. But when the patients who survived came out, it was just, you cried. You cried. It was incredible.
They were there
They
in
were
the
there.
screen.
They actually
Yeah.
came, and there was a party afterwards at Tavern on the Green, and I got to talk to some of them.
Uh-huh.
And it was actually one of the guys who was the star of the show. I talked to him about Josh, about how traumatic it was. I mean, he was
Yeah.
on death's door, and it was really hard to watch, but it was really amazing to see this guy dancing.
I don't know if
at
I
this
could
party.
watch it, honestly.
No,
like
it's
it just
very hard.
too real.
It's
too
very,
real.
It's very, very
Yeah.
hard. But I do recommend it if you can take that kind of thing. It's on Hulu, like I said, starting in a couple of weeks. I think you watch it. I think it's going to win the Oscar for Best Documentary. I
Oh,
would be
that's
shocked if
great.
it
And we
doesn't.
should
But
remember, these people who saved all these lives
This is the first version of history, right? I mean, it's so easy to forget. We're still traumatized by all of it, but it's good that there's people who had access to this and humanized it, and it wasn't just body counts. It wasn't just
totally. I think about the lead doctor who was managing Josh's case like every day.
Yeah. There. So it was all the
heroes.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, on that, I guess, positive note, right? That's all we have for this week. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. We really, when we give thanks, Rachel, I'm thankful for you.
I'm thankful for you as well.
And I'm thankful to everyone who listens to this podcast.
Yeah, thanks for sticking with us. I mean, 180 episodes.
Yeah, you don't have to. You have other things to do with your time, right? Like put it on the subway, in the car, whatever, when you're doing your housework.
You don't have to listen to us. There's so many different podcasts to listen to.
There's true crime. Everyone loves the true crime, but you want to listen to us, and we really, really do appreciate that. So thank you if that is the case for you. If you made it this far in the podcast, you probably is. Please rate, review, and subscribe. Apple Podcasts, give us a 5 and a little review. We really appreciate it. Terrible week. Really enjoyed recording this podcast for you. This has been Nope,
the podcast where we shut it down.